The transfer activity in football right now, it's heating up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chelsea have just signed another Brighton player, Joao Pedro. Gitten's coming through the door as well. We have to start off with that, Chelsea's transfer activity.
It does feel busy. It does feel like we're getting quite active.
Really good sign.
I think so as well. I think Joao Pedro works for a multitude of reasons. I'm getting the impression that some, at least from what I've seen online, some Chelsea fans aren't particularly inspired by this. But for me, I feel like it works. What I think it does quite well is straddle the two ideologies that are quite contrasting, but this might be the kind of grey area. So, for example, I want Chelsea to sign players for the here and now, players that are capable of winning the league for Chelsea, players that are capable of making Chelsea a serious contender for the Champions League. I want players to come in who are ready to elevate the standards and the belief of the club. The alternative view is to sign those players that I've just described, but the players of tomorrow. So I want the players for today. I'm the 27-year-old who comes in and wins you a league. The alternative view is to go, what we're going to do is we're going to sign a 19-year-old who's going to become what I want him to become. What I feel like Joao Pedro might do is effectively straddle both camps. He could be the grey area of the Venn diagram of both of them. So, yeah, he's got huge amounts of potential. He's going to be a player for tomorrow. He's capable of becoming one of the best players in the Premier League because the potential is there. But he's also a player who is clearly capable of scoring goals in the Premier League now. He's a Brazil international. I think he's got 3 caps for Brazil. He's got a great track record of scoring goals in the Premier League. He scored very big goals for Brighton in European competitions. Like I remember him scoring a banger against Marseille.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's already done that.
He's just a really good player as well.
Yeah,
I think he'd bring more out of Cole Palmer.
We take the pressure
off Cole
Cole
Palmer. That will link
well.
up with him really well. Because you've got a lot of players in there, and we kind of seem to go. And I've seen a lot of talk about Cole Palmer's positioning recently for Enzo Maresca and debates over whether he's playing him in the right position or not. I think he was on the left the other day, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Out in one of the wider areas. But I think Joao Pedro is one of those that actually will help bring the best out of Cole Palmer rather than, kind of dim his light. I think he's a really good. I would want Joao Pedro at United.
Yeah, I think.
And there was all the talk about Gyökeres and this, that, and big money signings. I was like, Joao Pedro.
Joao Pedro also, the fact that he was heavily linked with Newcastle United. Like Newcastle United were breaking their neck to sign him. So we've kind of got one over on them. And I think we now need to look at Newcastle United as a rival. We now need to see them as a team that are capable of beating us to silverware, beating us to players, beating us to Champions League qualification, and beating us in individual matches. So because they are that team, and they very nearly cost us our place in the Champions League last year when we played them towards the end of the season. We've kind of got one over on them as well, which is good.
Feels like a big asset in terms of that, but does it move the needle enough? Does it take you over Liverpool? I think Man City.
No.
But then that's where the question mark has to be. Is like, how can Chelsea spend nearly £2 billion since the new owners have come in, and there's no world class players in that side? Maybe Cole Palmer and maybe Reece James on his day as a right back. I don't think he's a world class right back right now. So we're still waiting. So it still feels like we're waiting next season. And
we're not going to win the league.
I know, but
that's
it feels like for big money for a Premier League striker coming in. Delap's come in as well. I still look at that forward line. I think it's still top 4, top 5 side.
But the forward line as it is now. Let's say that Delap leads the line. Joao Pedro supports Delap along with Cole Palmer. Delap, Joao Pedro. I agree with you. It won't win the league. But then it's backed up by players like Pedro Neto. I feel like it's
coming in. I'm not saying it's of course it's not a bad sign. He's a good player. He's just not.
It also means that Nicholas Jackson's nowhere near the first team.
Yeah, fine. You'll be a lot more.
But you're right. Like Chelsea aren't going to win the league, and the reason that we're not going to win the league, and you mentioned like the huge amounts of money that's been spent over the Clear Lake era, is the reason we're not going to win the league is because that hasn't been what we've signed. We've signed players who are capable of winning the league in 5 years' time.
Players, and you're signing players that will ultimately add to the squad. And whilst I agree with Buvey,
it's not very good players.
Joao Pedro's not a signing which moves you much closer to Liverpool, but the contribution of Liam Delap, who I think will be a better striker than Nicholas Jackson. I think he'll lead the line better. I think he'll contribute to the team massively. Joao Pedro is almost like, he'll start a lot of games, but he's almost like a squad option as well. He's not going to start every single game.
But also, as much as you're right, we have signed these players that can make us serious. We've also signed some terrible...
You've had some duds, but then you look at the midfield. You've got Moises Caicedo, I think's been fantastic coming into his own. I think when you look at the defenders that you've got, there are some good choices there. I still think you need to improve. And the goalkeeper obviously definitely needs sorting out. But like Reece James is coming back. I think the squad is getting there for Chelsea. Yes, it's still probably another 2 windows away from being an actual title.
Still a baggy squad. They're not selling players, and obviously there's a lot of time for them to sell certain players. Joao was at Crystal Palace on loan. There's a lot of players in the side that need to sort of find permanent moves. All I'm saying is it feels still like it's more of a well-balanced side. Delap's a fantastic signing. We all know that.
We're a much better side than last year, but the reason that we're not going to win the league is because it's the same ownership that spent a lot of money on Keane and Dewsbury Hall. It's the same ownership that spent a lot of money on Axel Disasi. It's the same ownership that spent a lot of money on Benoit Badiashile. It's the same ownership that spent a lot of money on Robert Sanchez. So, yeah, I like Joao Pedro signing. But it isn't going to move the needle.
No,
as you put
it
isn't going to move
6
the
or 7
needle.
out of 10.
What do you guys know about Jamie Gittins? Is there an excitement?
No, he looks electric. When I've seen highlights and stuff like that from Dortmund, he looks absolutely electric. He looks absolutely like raw pace and power. I think Madueke for me is a really frustrating figure. A decent Premier League player, but Gittins has probably got the ceiling a little bit above Madueke.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because also I saw Arsenal were linked to Madueke. Did you see that?
They're linked to everyone that you have.
What's going on with them?
Arsenal. Well, I mean,
business has been a bit weird.
They've got the Zubimendi signing over the line, haven't they?
The fella from
the Norgard signing, but again, that's just to compensate for Jorginho's. Jorginho went to Fluminense.
Yeah, Jorginho and Partey's left, and they've brought in Zubimendi and
Norgard. But over that's an elevation, isn't it? The two that have left aren't as good as the two that have come in.
Zubimendi's better than Jorginho at the moment. I think Jorginho is probably.
Zubimendi is better than Partey. And Norgard is better than... Yeah, Zubimendi's better than Partey.
Is he?
Yeah. Just about, yeah.
Partey was...
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot that can be said about Partey, but Partey was
Even if you think that's an equal, Norgard's better than Jorginho.
Yeah, right now. I think both of them players are better than Jorginho
it's a slight elevation. I can see Arsenal's frustrations with it, but
I think they'll miss Partey.
They'll miss Partey depending on what Zubimendi does. Like, Zubimendi in possession should be a lot better than Partey.
I just think Partey does some things that Zubimendi can't. I think in possession, Zubimendi will be amazing. That breaking up.
No, but that's what Zubimendi does as well.
Yeah, I suppose more intelligently.
What Zubimendi is meant to do is do the Partey stuff, but then be more progressive on the ball.
But he's not as good as Partey as the Partey stuff. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I think the argument would be that he is.
Okay.
I don't.
Plus, he's not as crocked as Partey. This guy's always breaking,
and he's not 32
down.
years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
But I think that overall, what they'll be looking at is the Zubimendi signing should elevate the Arsenal midfield, but it should also give Martin Odegaard a bit more.
What do you think the front line is going to look like? What would be the most common front line for Chelsea next season? Do you think?
Cole Palmer will play just behind. I think it will be the three up front. Liam Delap will lead the line with Joao Pedro supporting and Cole Palmer supporting.
So like two.
Yeah, they're both capable of playing anywhere across that front line, really.
And you're not worried by kind of the manager pushing Palmer out to...
Yeah, I'm really worried about the manager. I'd say part of the reason that I don't think we can win the league, part of the reason is I don't think the squad's good enough. But sometimes when the squad isn't good enough and you've got a manager that is good enough, you can still see a world where you could win the league. So, for example, the Chelsea squad that won the league under Conte wasn't good enough, but it won the league because the manager was good enough. I would argue that this squad isn't good enough, but neither is the manager. Like, I haven't seen... I'm not suggesting that the manager should be sacked. I think it should always be fair... I think it should always be fair, and... This is the case I made for Tottenham keeping Postecoglou, and it's the case I'll make for Chelsea to stick with Maresca. Both achieved what they set out to do. Postecoglou won silverware for the first time at Tottenham for 2 decades. Maresca got Chelsea back into the Champions League, and the bonus was winning European silverware. So he gets the opportunity to do the business here. But I haven't been particularly impressed with him. So we'll have to see how it goes. He proved me wrong last year. I'd like him to do it again.
And what else do you need then, just to wrap it up with Chelsea? What else do you need?
It's the defence.
And that looks like another 100, at least 100. We're talking 2 different players, 3 different players, 150 million more.
On some level, it is that. But on another level, I feel like it isn't. I feel like it's really easy if you spend the money and you turn your back on this strategy that we've employed that we cannot veer from.
A Martinez through the door, maybe.
Somebody, yes,
28-year-old
just somebody like that. Like I had that Club World Cup on, and I saw Thiago Silva doing it. And I was just like, oh my God, I'd love him.
Do a job now, couldn't he?
Yeah, I just saw him still doing the business. Yeah. So yeah, somebody like that, somebody who would just come in and make Levi Colwill a better player, make him.
Your squad still feels like it's a top 4 squad.
Yeah, I agree. But that's an improvement for a club. That's an improvement for a club.
And there's a lot of players
and that's the
with
point,
ceilings on there, and therell be a few players that probably surprise you.
It's also a club. It's also a club that wasn't in the Champions League for the first 2 years of this ownership.
Yeah.
So becoming a Champions League club under the modern vision is actually improvement.
And a trophy.
And a silver.